I'm going to call Paula Alvarez and Hollow Williams up. And then up on deck is Vanya Red, is it? So why don't the first two come on up, and I'll let you decide which of you wants to go first.
I'll go first.
All right.
Perla. Yeah.
Right.
So good morning, members of the board. My name is Paula Alvarez, and I'm an organizer in training with Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I live in East Portland, and I depend on public transportation to travel to places such as work. As a bus rider, I am unhappy with the frequency of the buses in East Portland, especially of bus 71. There have been times where I have to wait for the bus 71 for about 40 minutes. And one time, in the winter, on my way home from school, I had to wait 30 minutes, and when it finally arrived, the bus was full. So it did not take me and the people who had been waiting for the bus with me. So I had to wait an additional 15 minutes for another bus to go by and pick me up so I could go home. And currently, as an organizer with Opal, I have heard stories about East Portlanders who are transit dependent and are also dissatisfied with the system. For example, I met Melanie in the corner of 82nd and Foster. She's unhappy because her bus number 10, does not run after 8 p.m. and it doesn't run on weekends. She feels that the $5 that she has to pay every day to use Trimet is not worth the sacrifice. She gets out from work after the last bus 10 of the night has already passed, so she has no other option but to walk for about 30 minutes to her house. She also has considered moving houses because she can't go another winter at night under the rain and the cold just to walk home for 30 minutes. She also said that she can go shopping during the weekends because there's no service, and she doesn't want to walk 45 minutes to get to a grocery store and come back with the, carrying the bags of groceries. So I think it is not fair that transit-dependent people do not have the accessibility to just public transportation. So please keep in mind these stories, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, Trimet board members. For the record, my name is Paula Williams. I am an organizer in training with Opal Environmental Justice Oregon. I am transit dependent, and as a bus rider, I would like to share some stories about some Trimet experiences. For the past couple years, I had been working in group homes in different cities, Milwaukee, Aloha, and Gresham. I live downtown, and it usually takes me an hour or more to get to these places. Most of the time, I got out of work at night at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., and even 11:30 p.m. Having to wait for the bus for a decent amount of time in the dark, far from home, from my home, is stressful, especially in places I'm not too familiar with. As a woman of color, my safety is number one, in particular, traveling alone. For instance, once while waiting for the bus at night, a man pulled up in a car. I was alone, and the bus wasn't going to arrive for another 10 minutes or so. This made me feel vulnerable and alone. Bus frequency is my safety. As an organizer in training, I have heard similar stories from women. I spoke with a woman named Phyllis who has to travel from Milwaukee to St. John's. Her buses don't come frequent enough, and it takes her over 2 hours to get to her destination. I also spoke with Marilyn, who has 2 jobs. While talking with Marilyn, bus frequency was a factor for her getting from the first job to the second job on time. As a bus rider and an organizer in training, I believe safety and bus frequency go hand in hand. If the buses were more frequent, I wouldn't have to fear for my safety and think about other women's safety. Thank you very much for listening to my testimony.
Thank you. It's a very interesting connection I hadn't thought about, so thank you for that. So next up is Vanya.
Good morning, Trimet board members. You'll seem more attentive than testifying in front of the legislature. For the record, my name is Vanya Red, and I'm the coordinator for Opal's Organizing Training Program. In the last 6 weeks, I've heard many stories from transit riders about the experiences with Trimet. While some are good, a lot of them have had a lot of bad experiences with the services that Trimet is providing. And one of these stories was from a young woman named Lindsay. She rides the bus for about an hour and a half every day to go to work. She has explained to me the long walks that she takes in the dark in order to get to her first bus stop. It takes her about a mile to get there. The reason for her long walk is due to the fact that there's no frequent service for the line 10, especially in the weekends. She feels threatened and unsafe since there's not enough lighting and the sidewalks are dark for her to see where she's going. This young woman feels vulnerable and unsafe and strongly believes that Trimet should make the changes to her service. I believe that the consequences of not having reliable transportation only increases women's vulnerability. As the previous organizers in training have also expressed, women's safety is a huge concern for tricycle-independent riders. There's a risk in safety. There's a risk in their safety in order to take the service while the service is servicing them. Again, this is Trimet. We should not be catering to the service providers. The service should be catering to us. And this is not an isolated incident. As you've heard, there's many women who really fear for their safety, especially because they have the first shifts in the morning. So I hope that we can work and take this into consideration towards restoring frequency in order to provide security for the people who use your services. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time.